Hello students, welcome to TS1 Unit 3 Part 2. In continuation to Part 1, in the Part 2 we are going to see about the two important things, that is the ancient period and the early empire, which also deals about the Egyptian civilization. Further, once when we are trying to understand this, we will have a more knowledge about the history of tourism on understanding these aspects. In earlier days, the ancient period, we are going to see the Persian Empire, then we are going to learn about the Greeks, then comes the period in the Rome, and then in India what happened during those days we are going to see. In earlier times, especially during the ancient time, the inscription, the seals and the cave and rock paintings acts as an evidence of travel in the earlier period. We get a concrete evidence, especially with the help of the cave and rock paintings. So exactly we can derive the information what happened in the earlier history, or especially in the history of tourism. In ancient period, the travel is very difficult and it is also very dangerous, as the road networks or the travel network was not well established. The people certainly they might have found it a lot of difficulty in traveling. Then comes the concept of no return or safe return was also there. So the people feared to travel from one part of the world to another part, because they don't know exactly whether they will reach back safe. They don't know about the prevailing climatic condition, the seasons, so they feared a lot, and that made them not to travel. Then land and sea journey was undertaken, especially because they have to reach the far off places. So naturally they have to either go on land or with the help of ship they have to sail to the different parts of the world. Travel was moreover a time consuming, and the route network was also not well developed, as the mode of travel was not very fast as that of today. They have to take a long time to cover a small distance also, so it was a time consuming one, so that only rich people can afford to travel and the poor people cannot travel. So the history of tourism has to be well understood, but keeping the scientific evaluation at that time also. Travel was a costly affair and the wayside facilities were rarely available, so the traveler has to carry a lot of goods along with him for his food and water. So the travel was also a costly affair, because they have to move with more number of people from one place to another. So travel was a peculiar thing in those days. Nowadays it is common because of the scientific and other development in the transportation network. Travel depends much on the nature, and the season varies. Season varies from one part of the world. Somewhere it is somewhere at the same time it will be winter in the other parts of the world. So the people have to understand, as they traveled rarely, they are not having knowledge what is happening in the other part of the world, what climatic condition is prevailing. So the season is very limited and it depends much on the nature. The significant development encouraged travel. The main thing what encouraged travel are the creation of a specific path and courses primarily used by the traders and pilgrims. So the people, those who are involved in the trade, they used to follow a particular path and they used to carry the goods and they used to sell the goods in the other market and return back. So they created a path, and this path was widely used by the travelers also in the later days. Same way, the people, those who are going on pilgrimage, they will start their journey at a particular season and they will reach the destination at a particular season to take part in a particular pilgrimage activity. So they too have created certain route, and these routes were followed strictly by other travelers. Then development of a specified vehicle to travel over the land and water came into the existence. So the people started building the transport network. Apart from that, certain ships were built, and the road transport network was also came into a shape. So they created a history by the help of transportation. They started moving fast. Then comes the travel followed a particular pattern of network. So the people moved away from one destination, they moved to the another city and they followed a particular pattern, and they have a return route also. Sometimes the route they follow the same route to come back, sometimes they took a other route to come back, so that they can visit some new places once when they are coming back also. Resting places came in, and the food services were also provided along with the route. So the people, they came to know about the importance of tourism somewhere in this period. So they started providing certain food services to the travelers and they earned a little bit. So they started providing the food and other required services slowly the network of the restaurants and inns, it started in the olden days also. Then the range and scope of travel increased as people came to know about the distant part of the world. So the people, they started knowing the various information. On knowing various information, they created more curiosity among other people at the home. So they too moved, and the reason for the movement varied from one man to another right from the ancient period. Nature of consumption and travel also began to change during the earlier period also, because in a particular place I may be in need of certain goods, so I purchased or consumed those goods, and travel began to change widely after that. So when the people came back, they showed many things to their friends and relatives, so demand for a particular product increased. So once when the travelers are moving, apart from consuming the food and drinks, they also started taking some equipments or other items with them which may be useful for them. So they came to their hometown and they explained it. So the travel pattern slowly started. Curiosity became the reason for more travelers. Then wagons for goods, chariots for passengers were also designed to that time, because slowly the people started carrying more goods for their consumption in the other land, and slowly they came back with more goods so that it can be sold in their local market. Then people want a comfortable ride, so they started building chariots. So the wheel came into the existence. When the wheel made the travel easy, slowly they started constructing the wagons and chariots, which also helped them a lot in carrying both goods and passengers. Path and routes were redesigned for earlier movement of goods, so they made it very easier nowadays. So no need to carry everything, so they can put it on the caravans, they can put it on their wagons. Slowly these wagons are towed by the animals, as a result of which the supply of goods and the movement of people became easier. People came to know about the wealth which are available in the other part of the world, certain herbs, certain spices which are not available to them in their areas. Slowly the people came to know about that. Then they started purchasing and consuming that items. With the help of the travelers, they started knowing what is available in the other part of the world. So they started exchanging the things. So the wealthy goods of one part of the world, we can say, reached the other part of the world with the help of the merchants, as a result of which the tourism and trade started flourishing. In the later period, what happened? The emergence of war, the conquest, trade and commerce also filled the pages of the history. So slowly when the people came to know that such wealth is available in the other part of the land, they started the commerce, and somewhere they started the fighting also should dominate that particular wealth available in the other parts of the world. So as a result, when the trade and commerce flourished, same time the war, the consequences of the war also started appearing in the pages of the history of the human life. So certain photographs were kept in those days, how it was difficult to travel and how man used the animals mainly for traveling from one place to another. So you can see how they are carrying the goods on the animals' back. In the next photograph you will see the development of wheels and how the animals were used to carry those equipments, next to drag those chariots. In the third slide you will see the caravans. Mainly the compartment which was made for carrying the goods was stored with the help of the animal, and we are having the proofs through the carving, through the paintings in the numerous places. So we are able to understand the history of tourism of the ancient people who lived earlier than us. Next comes the early empire, in which the tourism became an established business, we can say, and slowly the Egyptian empires and the Roman period, they started to travel. Travel became a fashion during this period. Slowly rich elites, they traveled from one part of the world to another part of the world. Then they also, the Chinese, the Mauryan empires in India gave a lot of facility to the visitors or the travelers. So when the people moved, they started visiting the places, they started visiting the courts of the king in the other parts of the world. So what happened? Ultimately, the king of a particular country, he started providing various facilities to those travelers by constructing the road networks, by providing the security, by providing a highway or providing an inn. So they moved at a constant speed. They reached the other places. There they used to get the help of the king and other people, and they keep visiting the kingdoms. because of this also a lot of knowledge also traveled with them, and the imperial highway, the secondary roads for trades and the village roads, they came into the existence and they became common in those days. So once when the people understood or realized the importance of travel, and when the king himself want to promote the travel, so ultimately all these facilities started appearing in the world. Then the infrastructural for the trade as serais, inns, caravans and the pilgrimage center and the Pantgar, they also came into the existence. So in the particular place where the travelers traveled for a long distance, if they want to take rest, then wayside inns were also there and certain travelers were taking rest in that particular place. So such things started coming into the history pages, and the king also taxed people, those who are indulged in such business activities. So the travelers has to pay some tax, and that tax was used for constructing such infrastructure by a particular kingdom or a king. So it helped the travelers to move easily from one place to another. Then comes the other things. The various dog chowks were established, then the security posts were created so that the people, the merchants, the common pilgrimage people, they can travel without the fear, because the security is an important aspect. So the security was also provided the people, those who are traveling, either they took certain people along with them, or at a particular point they may be having certain security facilities so that the people can travel from one part of the world to another part in the same kingdom also without any problem. The differences between the travel and tourism were well understood by the people. So here came the first incident where we can understand in those days itself people have a lot of difference. They took the difference between the travel and tourism. So the tourism appeared, and they know who are the people, those who are traveling for the purpose of tourism, and who are the people who are traveling for the purpose of business or for the purpose of travel. Then the consumption character and the different thing. So they were able to exchange the money also. So they were exchanging the money also, or they were using those goods for exchanging and offered money for the particular construction of roads were also visible from the records of the history. Then the kitchen staff, the servants, the security personnel, household animals and food items and other required items were accompanied by the earlier travelers. So when they found it difficult, they started carrying the equipment. So when they found that certain services are available, travel became much easier. So this time they started living their home comforts were not available for the earlier traveler. So to make the home comforts available at the destination, they all were very much interested in establishing such services in the places where it is not available. Passengers and traveler were viewed as by the people as a person who bring prosperity to them, and the common local services were also provided to them. Then the courtesy to the strangers were extended in various culture, especially in the Asian countries. Once if you are coming as a stranger or a new traveler, you get a lot of welcome from the local people because of the hospitality nature of the people. Then literary work during the period has certain pages which are filled with the information of such travelers. So from the records we are able to establish those travelers, how they traveled, what was the nature of that particular travel and reason behind the travel. Travelers were also referred as the guests in many countries, so they were given the royal treatment. Atithi Devo Bhava, the concept which was in India, it came from the particular ancient period where we used to give lot of respect as we considered the tourist or a traveler as a god. Then comes the Egyptian civilization. In the Egyptian civilization attracted many tourists because the culture, the particular people, they followed a particular culture, the disciplined life what they followed, the knowledge what they have. Suddenly the people concentration was on the Egypt. So they started traveling towards the Egypt because they were able to understand the civilization more when they traveled. The light of Alexandria was considered as the 7 wonders of the ancient world. So they have built up the lighthouse where it was considered as the one of the 7 wonders, because in those days it really was appreciated by the people and they want to see how they are getting the guidance with the help of the light. That ship which are traveling in the deep sea, if they get a ray of light, and that indicates that it is a land, and the people will be diverting the ship to that particular land so that they are not get lost off. It is for this reason the lighthouse of Alexandria became very famous, and people started visiting this particular kingdom to see all those wonders of the world. Then people traveled for curiosity and pleasure. This appeared in this particular period. The people were very much interested in knowing what is happening in the other part of the world or in the other part of the land. So they traveled mainly to see the development, to see the way of living, to understand about the agriculture, understand about the trade and commerce. So when they traveled, their curiosity became the reason, and it is also for enjoying they traveled. People enjoyed traveling and they learnt more while traveling. Then festivity such as wines, drinks were also provided and were also followed at the end of the journey, because they were very tired during the particular course of the journey. So on reaching a destination, on reaching a spot, they relieved themselves, they enjoyed themselves by having drinks, and such things was appearing in the pages of history in those days. People traveled between the month of April and November to see the glorious movement of Egypt, because at this particular part the climate was very suitable for travel. Many fairs and festivals have occurred in these regions, in this particular climate or in this particular time period. So they started visiting, and they also visited the famous monuments of Egypt, which showcased their knowledge and their tradition and culture. Various monuments were built by the Egyptians in those days, and later on it perished. And we are having the proof through the graffitis, and the message on the walls were the symbolic for that. Now those monuments were not existing, but the people in olden days, they mainly traveled to visit such monuments, and they have left records in various forms, especially on the paintings on the walls or the messages on the walls act as a proof. There we are having certain pictures also, which clearly indicate how the monument was built and who came to look at those structures. Nowadays we are having only the proof. Even though the monuments were not available, from the history of tourism we can reconstruct all these things. Moreover, the travelers at the end of their journey, they were purchasing some small souvenirs to show them to the people back at the home. So this also increased the curiosity for the people to travel. So once when I am reaching my home after a travel, I used to show certain things to my friends and relatives, what I have purchased, how the land was, and what the people were doing. All these were being recorded. So I will be showing it as a proof of visiting such places. That became the part of the souvenir, and these souvenirs came into the existence right from the ancient period. Travel was carried out when the weather was very pleasant. This was another reason which restricted the travel. Moreover, people traveled when the climatic condition was very good, and during the abnormal season, that is during the rain and the snowfall, they stopped traveling or they exposed themselves less to that of nature's cause. So the travel has certain period, that means it followed certain seasonality pattern. From 11th century BC, they moved towards the Atlantic and the Africa, because they came to know about these land. So they used the seaways and the roadways or the land routes to reach the far off places with the help of ship and other modes of transport. So they started giving the records of such places also. Money was used as a form of exchange, because they understood carrying the goods to a wide or a longer places, because the traveler has to move with a good amount of load, which is impossible for a normal man to do. So only the rich people traveled. Later on, they started exchanging the money, especially the gold coins, so that in the other part of the world they came to know that the gold is accepted as a measure. So they gave the gold and they received certain services. Because of this, they no need to carry a lot of load along with them. Traveler purchased foods and services en route, because the people in other part of the world, they started offering such services to the visiting travelers, and they got certain livelihood or certain money or certain gold coins, and this became a part of their livelihood. So they were making the travel process easier throughout the pages of history as and when the time passed. Then comes the Persian Empire. The Persian travelers are also very famous all over the world. because their land area extended in a huge area. So they started improved the travel infrastructure, and by that they started attracting the tourists also, and they started moving towards the other part of the world, and this became a routine in them. Road network was developed to facilitate travel, and this made the travelers to move from one part of the world to another part more easily. They also developed the covered overhead wagon because of the climatic condition which existed in that particular period of time. It was so hot. So once when the people want to travel, they cannot offer to travel in the open wagon. So they started producing the wagons which are covered overhead, and this made the travel easier, and they also transported the goods easily because of those caravans and chariot. When people traveled, facilities also started increasing. So with the increasing in the facilities, the merchants, the tourists also moved in large number with the goods. Tourists moved from place to place for the purpose of visiting the places, whereas the merchants, they carried the goods for the place of businesses. Then comes the Greek. The maritimes of the Greek was world known, and it helped in developing the tourism. They are very smart and they explored the sea routes especially, so they were becoming the masters. So when they became the masters, then all the people started approaching this particular kingdom. Then the currency exchange system was also established, and this made Greek a very interesting spot to visit. Greek became the common language in the Mediterranean region. As they dominated the scene, slowly the languages were also understood, and they started spreading their languages, and the people in the other countries, they are also very much interested in reading that particular language, because they know that travelers will be traveling and they can provide certain services, and that becomes easier when you know the language of the traveler. Then the festivals were hosted to attract the travelers exclusively in this Greek. So the people started celebrating certain festival, and the other part of the land people, they also came to know that this particular festival will be celebrated during this season. So when the calendar was arranged, they know exactly when this particular festival will take place. Accordingly, they planned their journey and they moved towards that particular land to take part in the fairs and festival organized by that particular community people. Then Olympic Games held in the display and creative authentic skills in the honor of the sports of the god Zeus. So they have conducted the Olympic Games also. The records were available. From the historic pages we can see why, what for they celebrated, and it attracted a lot of sporting personality towards their particular land. Then comes the tragedies and comedies, and then the art, the culture, the tradition. Slowly it was spoken in different places. As a result of that particular thing created curiosity among the travelers who are living in the other parts of the world. Slowly they started moving towards that particular land. Scholars, physicians, then philosophers and the men of science also visited Greece to learn and expand their skills. Slowly that became the hotbed. So the people traveled more towards that particular land to acquire knowledge, to see what sort of tradition the people are following. Then the community, how they became famous was also learned. So everybody started moving almost all towards this land to gain more knowledge. Athens became the famous destination, and today also it is one of the most famous destinations where people want to travel if they want to understand about that particular part of the land or the people. Then the hospitality facilities which were provided during those particular period, and the entertainment shows were also conducted to keep the visitors engaged so that they were enjoying the lot. Guide services were also available, and the travelers used these guide services in those days because the traveler may not be knowing what is happening in the local culture or local language. So that particular knowledge, they got that help with the help of the service providers, especially the guides. Then comes the Rome. About the people, these people are also very much enthusiastic in traveling. They were known for the hospitality, trade and sector. They have the planned network, and roads are well established, and waterways was very popular in those periods. So they started using these ships and road facility to travel from one part of the world to the another. The wealth and prosperity of the Roman. or the citizens of Rome, they were very wealthy people. So that also increased the curiosity. Say they took the interest. Knowing more about that particular place became the reason for the people to travel towards that particular place. Then people brought under their control. So once when they extended their empire, slowly that particular empire or the kingdom, it attracted more travelers towards them. Then the guides and all the contents which were being explored, they were using all these facilities to bring in more travelers, as a result of which their claims and their way of languages, tradition, culture, everything started attracting more people towards that particular country. Then visitors were much attracted to the 7 wonders of the world, and the 7 wonders were available at that time in those empires. The mineral springs were also closely associated with the shrines, as a result of which both the travelers who are in need of medical treatment and the pilgrimage travelers, they were attracted towards such particular hot springs which are the part of the pilgrimage travel also. Then literary references also attracted certain educated travelers towards the Roman Empire. Not only the people, those who are having wealth, it also started the scholars, the philosophers, because of the literary work which took place there, and through those literary work they came to know more about that particular land, to see the things what is happening there. Really the people started traveling towards Rome. Then itinerary was well developed in those places, and it was used by the people of the Rome to travel from one place to another. So the calendar was set and they started moving from one place to another. Next comes the India, the wonderland, what we used to say, because you have everything here. We have the ice covered mountains, we have the beaches, we have the deserts. So everything is possible in India to see within a short distance of travel. So the people were also much attracted towards this land, not only now but also in the earlier period also. India's geographical location made it as an important part of the world. Because of this reason, people, they traveled towards India. When they traveled towards India, they found lot many interesting things, as the civilization was well established right from the ancient period. Various famous products like spices also reached the other part of the world. It is because of Indian or the traditions, the culture which was followed was widely appreciated, and as a result of which the people were also attracted equally towards India. Then the culture which prevailed here, the fairs, the Arthashastra, it all recorded certain events. Even Mahabharata, we have certain events and fairs which are continuously recorded. Certain festivals which took place even in those days were recorded. So these gives a lot of idea and reason for the merchants to travel from one place to another along with the goods to take part in this fair, because they want to sell the goods. So they move towards a particular place when the fair is conducted. To take part in those fair, tourists from various spots, they assembled at that particular place where the fairs are conducted. So they started exchanging goods, exchanging idea, exchanging the culture and tradition. All took place here because of the tourism, and as a result that Indians also started moving from one place to another, and all over the world they started spreading their culture and tradition. Trade over land and inland waterways was also developed in those days. So they started exploring both the ways, that is through the waterways also and over the land routes also people travel. People understood the importance of tourism much earlier than in other parts of the world, so that only we can see the product in one corner of India is reaching the other corner of the world easily. It is because of the trade. The tourism also developed. It is because of the tourism the trade also developed further. So both the things were moving steadily, and it was growing because of the culture of the people, of the tradition of the people. Such thing was made possible even in the ancient time also. Then comes the Buddhist saga, established the tradition of pilgrimage, and the people started mainly moving for the purpose of taking part in the religious activity. So the pilgrimage became the part of their life. So especially the middle-aged people, before becoming the old-age people, they used to travel for the purpose of pilgrimage from one part to another part. They used to visit various temples, they used to take bath, holy dip, what we used to call, and these places are located in the far-off places. That does not deter them. With the little bit of services, with the little bit of the network, transportation network and other thing, they believed and they moved, started their journey, and ultimately one fine day they will reach the destination. They took part in that particular pilgrimage, they offered prayers, they took bath in the holy dip was made in Gangas and in many other rivers, and they came back to their hometown. This created a lot of movement among the people, and pilgrimage also started attracting more domestic tourists within India. Then the monasteries also attracted various monks. They all took place in those periods because they want to travel a lot to learn the new things, to follow the custom of a particular society or the culture. Then they moved. Once when they moved slowly, even the merchants also started moving, and when everybody started moving, even the laymen, they also contributed much for the tourism trade. Horses, elephant and camels were used as a common mode of transport, because with this mode of transport they were able to take a lot of goods along with them. Slowly this became the part of the life, and moreover the sarais were designed and it accommodated the foreign travelers, and even the entertainment facilities were also extended to those travelers, those who are staying in such places, especially during the night time and during the evening time before or after dinner. The entertainment activities were shown by the people, and it helped in the preservation of culture. It also exposed the tourists about the rich culture and tradition of the Indian system, the milestones and other things. Bayolis, sarais were the network or the part of the network even in the olden days, so that the people can understand how much distance they have traveled and how much more they have to travel to reach a destination. So this helped a traveler a lot, so that they can plan their journey, or they can stay back, or they can proceed even in the faster. Such importance was given to the travelers and to the tourists, those who are visiting India in the olden days. Then comes the Mughal emperors. They have the great love for nature, and they themselves travelled extensively from one part of India to another. This gives a lot of development to the particular culture and tradition, and it also helped to develop the destination. Resort development, visibility in various cities. The resorts were developed in various cities, and the people were deployed in between also to help the rurals to travel from one place to another. So an advance party will go, they will make the arrangement for the king to visit that particular place. So when the king reaches that particular spot, he will stay there for a few days. Then the advance party will move ahead, and they will be pitching the tents and doing all other arrangements, so that the king will reach that spot also. Slowly the deployment and the development, it all helped the king to travel from one part of his kingdom to another part without much of the disturbance or without much of the trouble. Travel rules were well defined, so the people, how they have to travel, what rules and regulations they have to follow, everything was made available. Gambling was licensed, and it became the source of revenue to the state. So the gambling was also permitted in those days, and it also generated certain source. So once when the people are moving from one city to another city, a little of tax was also collected, so that the road system, the sarais and the restaurants which were available in those days can be maintained, and these two helped the travelers. And the travelers were also very much interested in paying these taxes, so that in future they can get a good services, so that these things were developed exclusively in many parts of India, so that India became a hot spot, and it attracted millions of tourists towards India even in the ancient time, and the proofs are existing in the records of the history. So towards the conclusion, student, you have learnt about the history of tourism, in which we have dealt about the two things, that is the ancient period and the early empires, and you have seen the development of tourism in various parts of the world. If you want to really appreciate the history of tourism, then you have to look into the tourism aspects, how it was in various countries at various period of time. By understanding this, you can really appreciate the history of tourism. It will give a clear picture that not only in the present situation we are traveling, but our forefathers, those who lived during the ancient time, they also traveled with help of whatever means was available to them, and slowly from there we got that idea of tourism, how it got established, and now how it is in the present form.